In July 2026, something happened to your brain. Not to football, to your brain. And the strange part is, your brain knew it was coming before you did. 3 men walked off 3 different pitches in the same summer. Neymar first, MetLife Stadium, July 5th. Brazil had just lost to Norway. He was in tears, and something shifted in millions of people who had never met him. Not sadness exactly, something older than sadness, something that felt physical. Here is what that feeling actually was. In 1979, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky published a paper that would quietly reorganize how we understand the human mind. They weren't studying football. They weren't studying grief. They were studying how people make decisions. And they found something that has never stopped being true. Losses hurt approximately twice as much as equivalent gains satisfy. Not emotionally, mathematically, 2 to 1. Which means 20 years of Messi goals, 20 years of Ronaldo trophies, 20 years of Neymar joy may have been neurologically outweighed by 3 exits in a single summer. Kahneman called this the most significant contribution of his career, not the most significant finding, his career. And then UCLA put people in brain scanners and made it visible. When the brain anticipates a loss, the striatum and the insula activate more intensely than they do for an equivalent gain. Your brain doesn't just feel loss more, it processes it differently, in different regions, with different urgency. Loss to your nervous system is a threat, not a disappointment, a threat. Which is why, when Ronaldo's Portugal lost to Spain, when the cameras caught him standing on the pitch after the final whistle, not moving, just standing, what you felt watching, that wasn't sympathy. It was activation, ancient, automatic, neurological activation, the same circuitry that fires when something you depended on disappears. But there's something the loss aversion research doesn't fully explain. Why did it feel personal? Ronaldo doesn't know you. Messi has never thought about you. Neymar, in 20 years of interviews, has never once mentioned your name. And yet, your body reacted like it mattered, like something in your own life had ended. Here's what was actually happening. Research on what psychologists call parasocial relationships has been building for decades. The finding is this: the brain does not distinguish at the level of neural processing between a real relationship and a simulated one. If you have followed someone for long enough, watched them enough, learned their patterns, predicted their behavior, felt pride when they succeeded, and something close to shame when they failed, your brain has built a social model of that person, real architecture, real neural pathways, real social memory. And when that person disappears, the brain processes it the same way it processes any social loss. The striatum activates, the insula fires, the same regions that register the end of a friendship, the departure of someone you loved, they register this too. One-sided relationship, two-sided grief. You didn't lose a player, your brain lost someone it knew. And the brain doesn't file appeals. It doesn't reconsider when you explain that you never actually met them. It just grieves. Now here is what no one is saying. They were grieving too. Not for you, not for the fans. For something inside themselves that was already gone before they said it out loud. Neuroscience on elite performers has documented what happens after decades of peak reward. The brain adapts, it down-regulates. The dopamine system, flooded with transcendence for 20 years, adjusts its sensitivity. What once felt like ecstasy begins to feel like obligation. The same goal, the same roar, the same trophy, less. And then the body stops cooperating. Research from sports neuroscience shows that older elite athletes don't just lose speed, they lose the unconscious fluency that made them seem inhuman. The brain compensates. It recruits additional cortical regions. It thinks more and feels less. It calculates what used to be instinct. Messi in 2026 was not Messi in 2009, not because he had declined, because his brain had rewired itself to stay relevant in a body that was no longer 22 years old. The god was still there, running different software. So when Neymar stood at that press conference in July, when his voice cracked and he confirmed what everyone already suspected, Those tears were not only for Brazil, they were for a version of himself that had already departed. The version that made football look like joy. The version before the injuries. Before the weight of being Brazil's everything for 15 years. Before the dopamine system stopped returning his calls. He wasn't announcing retirement, he was confirming what his brain had already processed years ago. What Carolyn Kitch found when she studied how societies mourn celebrities is that the media coverage isn't really news, it's ritual. It doesn't inform, it reaffirms. And its subject is never the person who died. Its subject is always the people who are left. In July 2026, the headlines about the end of an era, the tributes, the montages, the pundits crying on television, none of that was about Messi, Ronaldo, or Neymar. It was about the people watching, a generation using three men's exits to ask itself a question it couldn't ask directly. Who are we now that this is over? Terror management theory has spent decades studying what happens to the human mind when it is reminded that things end. The finding is uncomfortable. Cultural icons function as what the research calls symbolic immortality projects. They exist in a space where the rules of ordinary life don't seem to apply. They age more slowly than the rest of us. They perform feats that suggest the body has no limits. They win things that matter long after most people have stopped believing that winning is possible. And as long as they exist, as long as they are still playing, still competing, still doing the impossible thing, they buffer us from the knowledge that time is moving. When they left, we didn't just lose players. We lost the buffer, the proof that transcendence is possible, the evidence that a human body can do things that don't make sense, the background radiation of a generation's belief that some things last. And here is the question that doesn't have a clean answer. Every generation asks, who's next? But what if there is no next? Not because talent is dying. Talent is not dying. But the conditions that allowed three human beings to dominate the imagination of an entire planet simultaneously for 20 years, without interruption, across every language and every continent, those conditions may be gone. The broadcast era that concentrated attention, the pre-social media world that made it possible for a single player to be the background of a generation's life rather than one tab among 50. Leagues will try to manufacture new gods. They always do. They are structurally incentivized to prevent the revenue from declining. But they cannot manufacture monoculture. They cannot recreate the conditions under which a child in Lagos and a grandfather in Buenos Aires and a teenager in Tokyo all agreed without coordination on who the greatest was. The gods fell, and what fell with them was not just an era of football. It was the last time a generation will share a single story about what human greatness looks like. So when you felt that thing, in July 2026, when the news came through and something in you registered it before you could process it, that wasn't sentiment. That was your brain updating its model of the world, removing three people from the social architecture it had spent decades building, realizing without your permission that the years those people played in are now the years that are over, not behind you, over. Your brain registered it as trauma. Because it was, not because of what you lost, but because of what you realized you'd been carrying without knowing it. A generation's worth of proof that something extraordinary was still happening, that the world still produced people who made the impossible look like it belonged here. When they left, the proof left with them. And what remained was just the question you're still sitting with. What do you do with a world that no longer contains what made it feel worth watching?